If you're here, it's because you felt that uncomfortable feeling when you run into someone who seems to trigger something unexplainable inside you. Take a deep breath. What if that person was the mirror life put in your path to reveal something to you? Like this video now and subscribe to the Psychedelic Tear channel. Comment below. I embrace the reflection. That's your symbolic password to start this journey. Some people don't just irritate us, they pierce right through us. They show up and, without even saying a word, they awaken a discomfort that feels ancient, like they're bringing something that was never digested but keeps bubbling up inside. Some people try to distance themselves, change environments, avoid contact. But what few realize is that this discomfort isn't about the other person. It's about yourself. What hurts outside is what's still bleeding inside. The projection mechanism works in silence. It pushes outward everything that hasn't been fully accepted yet. The world becomes a field of mirrors, and every face that affects us is a reflection of what hasn't been integrated yet. The mind, conditioned to look for external culprits, keeps pointing fingers. It says the problem is someone else's behavior, their lack of character, their difficult personality. But the soul whispers something else. It says, look, observe. What exactly is this person mirroring back to you? The projection mechanism, when understood, becomes one of the most powerful tools for awakening. It teaches us that projected anger is a cry to be heard. That hatred isn't just about the other person, but about the part of us that's still crying out for acceptance. And that changes everything. The truth is, we hate in others what we can't accept in ourselves. The arrogant person might be reflecting our fear of appearing weak. The manipulator, our repressed need to control. The loudmouth, our own muffled voice. Every discomfort is a crack into what's been denied. And the universe, with surgical precision, places these people in our path so there's no more escape. Because what isn't integrated gets repeated until it's finally recognized. Nobody crosses your path by accident, especially those who knock you off center the most. There's a hidden meaning in every uncomfortable encounter. There's intelligence behind every mirror. When the judgment repeats, when the trigger is always the same, it's a sign that something is asking to be seen. The projection mechanism has no compassion, but it has purpose. It will show you clearly and insistently everything you tried to hide from yourself. And that's when awakening begins. When, instead of reacting, you ask yourself, what does this reveal about me? When anger becomes a compass, when discomfort becomes a lens, when the other person, instead of being an enemy, becomes a mirror. At that point, what used to be resistance transforms into a portal, and the journey toward inner integration begins. Comment now. I am the reflection I need to see. What we call hatred or dislike is often just a misinterpreted internal message. The projection mechanism acts like an invisible mirror that distorts reality to reveal what hasn't been healed yet. Consciousness transfers to the outside world the contents it refuses to see internally. And so, what you don't accept in yourself starts showing up in other people's attitudes. Not because the world is persecuting you, but because the mind is trying to protect you by hiding from you the parts it's afraid to face. That's why sometimes just a word, a gesture, a look, and something ignites inside, as if that simple detail was enough to trigger a whole field of memories, traumas, and old discomforts. What's happening there isn't just irritation, it's activation. You're not just reacting to the present, but reliving emotions that were never resolved. That's when projection becomes a pattern, because without realizing it, you start attracting, repeating, and reacting the same way over and over. And life becomes a cycle of confrontations with your own mirror. Understanding the projection mechanism is starting to deactivate this cycle. It's realizing that most of the time, you don't hate the other person. You hate what you feel when you're around them. The emotion they awaken, the part they reveal, the judgment they activate. And all of that is in you. Integrating this realization means stopping outsourcing your pain. It means stopping saying, "They make me feel bad," and starting to ask, "Why do I feel bad around them?" That's the turning point. And this turning point requires courage, because it means abandoning the victim role. It means recognizing that you're not just the one affected, but the creator of the emotional scenario that repeats. It means accepting that the other person is showing you, even without knowing it, the edges of your own consciousness. And there, the possibility of healing is born, because only what's brought to light can be transformed. And the projection mechanism is deep down an instrument of light. It illuminates through friction. What if, instead of reacting to whoever bothers you, you thanked them? Not because you like the pain, but because you recognize the value of the message. What if every person who challenges you was actually helping you grow? Discomfort is the beginning of alchemy. It's the tension that prepares transformation. Comment now. I listen to what the mirror shows me. And if you haven't liked yet, like now. And share this video with someone who needs to understand why others bother them so much. Let's continue this journey. When someone hurts us with words or actions, it's natural for a reaction to arise. Anger, sadness, indignation. But why do some situations affect us more than others? The answer lies in emotional triggers. A trigger is like an invisible button that, when pressed, activates unresolved internal content. And whoever presses that button usually doesn't even know what they did, but the impact we feel reveals something much bigger, a reflection, a piece of us that was touched. The projection mechanism works like this. It transforms the other into a messenger and discomfort into a map. Some people spend their lives blaming others for their feelings, but the truth is, nobody can cause in you what doesn't already exist inside. The person isn't creating the pain, they're just showing where it was already hidden. So when you feel triggered by someone, the invitation is, stop, breathe. Ask yourself honestly, what exactly hurt me here? Was it the tone of voice, the rejection, the feeling of invisibility? Identifying the trigger is the first step to get out of reactivity and into consciousness. When you observe the trigger with attention, it stops being an enemy and transforms into a revealer. That criticism that affected you so much might be showing your repressed need for acceptance. Someone's indifference might be connecting you to the old pain of not being seen. The jealousy that eats at you might be mirroring unhealed insecurities. Every emotion has a root, and that root lives in you. The other person just waters it without knowing. And the stronger your reaction, the deeper the point that was touched. The beauty of the process begins when you use discomfort as a compass. Instead of running from pain, you listen to it. Instead of reacting automatically, you investigate yourself. And in this act of self-observation, a new freedom is born. The freedom of no longer being a slave to triggers, of not handing over your emotional power to anyone. of not letting the external determine your internal state. This is integration. This is emotional maturity. This is real spirituality applied in daily life. Now think, when was the last time someone really got under your skin? What if behind that situation there was a key to your own evolution? Write in the comments, I listen to my triggers as signals for healing. And if you made it this far, it's because you're ready to go beyond the surface. Like this video and subscribe to the Psychedelic Tear channel to continue this underground journey to the center of being. Next, we'll see where all this stuff we hide so much comes from, and how this forgotten part shapes everything we project. What you project onto others didn't come from nowhere. There's an origin, a forgotten root buried in your life's history. It's there, in childhood, that we start learning what we can or cannot show. Crying too much was weakness. Speaking your mind was rudeness. Having your own will was selfishness. And so, little by little, parts of our being were silenced, expelled from the stage of consciousness. But what's repressed doesn't disappear. It just changes location and starts living in the unconscious. This dark region is what we call the shadow, and the projection mechanism is the path it uses to be seen again. The shadow is formed by everything you learn to hide to be accepted. It carries desires, emotions, impulses, and traumas that were labeled as unacceptable. And since these parts couldn't be expressed, you push them to the basement of the soul. But the unconscious doesn't have a lock. It leaks, escapes, and ends up taking form in others. What you criticize, reject, or condemn outside is often something you were once forced to abandon inside. The shadow, therefore, is yours, but appears in someone else's mirror. That's why certain people awaken such strong reactions in us. Not because of who they are, but because of what they represent to our shadow. The arrogant person might reflect the self-esteem you couldn't cultivate. The lazy person, the rest you never allowed yourself. The manipulator, the control you learned to suppress. Projection is the shadow's disguise asking for reconnection. And until you embrace it, it will continue dancing in front of you with new faces, new voices, new characters. The pain of repression is deep but silent. It manifests as discomfort, frequent judgments, relationships that repeat. And the most painful thing is that most people live like this without realizing it, judging the world but reacting to their own wound. The projection mechanism then becomes the shadow's only channel to communicate. And the more you deny it, the more intense the message becomes, until there's no choice left but to listen. The question now is, what in you was forgotten? What did you have to hide to be accepted? What part of you is begging to come back? This isn't about reliving traumas, but about recognizing the pieces of your inner puzzle. Comment now, I allow my shadow to come home. And if this video is resonating with you, like and share it. Subscribe to Psychedelic Tear to continue exploring the hidden mirrors that life places in our path. In the next chapter, we'll understand what happens when this shadow remains ignored, and how it transforms into an emotional prison. When the shadow isn't integrated, it becomes habit. The projection mechanism becomes a silent pattern that repeats without the person noticing. The same type of frustrating relationship, the same oppressive boss, the same abusive friend. Life starts going in circles, and even if the scenery changes, the emotion remains. The prison isn't made of external bars, but of automatic internal responses. Each new person who appears carries, unknowingly, the same role, to activate what still needs to be seen. And the more you run, the stronger the pattern becomes. This prison is invisible because it looks like reality. It seems like the world is persecuting you, but actually it's the unconscious trying to teach you. Until the lesson is learned, the projection mechanism will keep manifesting. And that's why the same pain returns with new disguises. Nothing changes until you change what's inside. The problem was never the other person. The problem was always what you haven't allowed yourself to heal yet. What isn't recognized repeats, and what repeats takes root. Over time, this cycle generates frustration, feelings of powerlessness, and even emotional illness. Denied emotions start taking their toll: anxiety, constant irritability, isolation. Vital energy is drained by judgments that never cease. And the cruelest part is that all this seems inevitable, but it's not. The pattern only exists because there's still a part of you waiting for acceptance. And that acceptance begins the moment you accept seeing the mirror as teacher and no longer as threat. Many try to escape by changing cities, jobs, relationships, but the shadow travels along. Because the projection mechanism isn't outside, it's in you. It will continue acting even if you change everything around you. And freedom only comes when you stop running, when you look inside, when you take responsibility, not as guilt, but as a choice of maturity. The mirror doesn't punish you, it guides you, and it only disappears when you learn what it wanted to show you. Now reflect. What pattern has been repeating in your life? What do you keep attracting even while trying to avoid it? Comment now. I recognize the cycle and choose to break it. And if this reflection is making sense to you, like this video. This helps the content reach more people. Subscribe to the Psychedelic Tear channel to continue receiving content that reveals what's hidden beneath the surface. Next, we'll dive deeper to reveal how the enemy can actually be your greatest teacher. It's hard to accept, but often whoever gets under our skin the most is who has the most to teach us. The figure of the enemy, the one who provokes, confronts, disturbs, is also, many times, the most accurate mirror of our shadow. The projection mechanism operates here with mastery. It transforms the other into a messenger you'd rather not listen to, but if you can observe carefully, you'll see that whoever bothers you most is pointing to a specific wound you haven't healed yet. Healing begins when you stop wanting to eliminate the mirror and start deciphering it. Of course, this doesn't mean accepting abuse, disrespect, or violence, but it means understanding that the intense emotional reaction that arises in front of the other person is yours. You're the one who feels. And if you feel it, it's because something inside still pulses. True power isn't in controlling the other person, but in understanding what they activate in you. It's this understanding that transforms the enemy into teacher, because they reveal exactly what consciousness hid to protect you. Pain comes with purpose. Discomfort points the way. Imagine if you could look at every conflict as a mirror, not as a battlefield. Imagine if, instead of attacking or running, you said, "What is this person trying to show me about myself?" This simple shift in perspective breaks the pattern of automatic reaction, and by doing this, you take back the power you gave the other person over your emotions. The projection mechanism stops being an unconscious cycle and becomes a conscious resource for growth. This is the key turn. understanding that nobody has the power to knock you off center unless you allow it. The reaction is yours. The judgment is yours. The discomfort is yours. And therefore, the key is also yours. When you take ownership of your own internal experience, you start to notice that the other person no longer has control over your emotional state. And this isn't indifference. This is freedom. Because when you master yourself, nothing external shakes you with the same force. Now think, who has been your biggest mirror lately? Which uncomfortable figure might be revealing a part of you that you still don't want to see? Comment below, I see the teacher behind the mirror. Like this video and share if this content is helping you move from reaction into consciousness. Subscribe to the Psychedelic Tear channel to continue navigating the hidden layers of being. And now that you understand the role of the mirror, let's explore how to decide whether to free yourself or stay trapped in the same reflection. After walking among mirrors for so long, an inevitable moment arrives, the choice. Integrate or repeat. The pain can keep coming back, the triggers can stay lit, and the same pattern can repeat for years. Or you can decide to interrupt the cycle now. The truth is that the projection mechanism only continues acting with force when you insist on denying what it shows. But when you accept that everything that appears in the other person exists in some form within you, the illusion of separation begins to dissolve, and with it, the emotional prison. Integrating isn't accepting everything the other person does. It's recognizing what that awakens in you. It's taking responsibility for your emotional field. Repeating is continuing to point fingers, waiting for the world to change so you feel better. Integrating is taking the reins of your own transformation. There's no healing without consciousness. And there's no consciousness without self-observation. With each choice made in the present, you decide whether you keep reacting or start responding with maturity. This transition is simple, but it's not easy. It requires internal effort, constant practice, and mainly humility, because it's easier to blame than to investigate, more comfortable to react than to dive deep. But the price of repetition is high. Each new unconscious cycle costs energy, peace, presence, and there comes a time when the body feels it, emotions collapse, and the soul gets tired. At that point, integrating stops being an option and becomes a necessity. The good news is you don't have to do this all at once. Integration happens step by step. It starts with small pauses before reacting, with sincere questions. What am I feeling now? Is this pain new or old? Is this anger about this person or about something that lives in me? Each answer found opens a space, and in that space, something reorganizes. Because deep down, integrating is allowing truth to occupy the place of reaction. You can decide now, keep repeating the same mirrors or start freeing yourself from them. Comment, I choose to integrate what I haven't seen yet. If this content is helping you, leave your like. This shows us it's worth continuing to bring reflections like this. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is the moment. Click the button and turn on notifications to continue receiving videos that illuminate the invisible. In the final chapter, we'll gather all the pieces of this journey and reveal where true healing actually begins. Healing doesn't begin with answers. It begins with acceptance. Not acceptance of the other person, but of the reflection they activate. While you try to defeat the mirror, it remains. But when you embrace it, it transforms. The projection mechanism stops being a punitive cycle and becomes a bridge from unconsciousness to truth. What was reaction becomes understanding. What was judgment becomes compassion. What was war dissolves into clarity. The mirror was always there, just waiting for you to stop running. Accepting the reflection doesn't mean conforming. It means freeing yourself. Because when you integrate the emotion, it no longer commands your choices. When you see the shadow, it stops acting in the dark. And when you accept that everything you see outside has resonance with what vibrates inside, reality begins to change. Not by magic, but by coherence. Life reflects your internal state, and the more truth there is inside, the more harmony there will be outside. Every person who hurt you was also a portal. Every trigger, a compass. Every repetition, a loving warning from the universe to look again. The projection mechanism, however painful it may seem, is consciousness, technology. It doesn't fail. It shows exactly what you need to see to return to center. And in that center lives something that was never wounded, something that always knew, something that waits for your return. Now, breathe deeply. Think of someone who still bothers you deeply, someone you avoid, judge, or simply can't forgive. What does this person represent? What part of you are they mirroring? What if this pain isn't about them, but about what they activate? The answer is there, inside, silent, waiting for your attention. You can resist more, or you can start now. Comment below. I accept the reflection and choose to free myself. This is your symbolic commitment to healing. If this journey touched you in some way, like this video now. This helps us reach more people who are also ready to stop running and start looking. Subscribe to the Psychedelic Tear channel to continue receiving content that doesn't just inform, but transforms. Remember, everything you reject in others is a reminder of what you still need to reconcile in yourself. The mirror was never your enemy. It was just telling the truth.